you work in early childhood education and care, you probably have heard this name, Jack Shonkoff. Today I'm going to talk about Jack Shonkoff's work, From Neurons to Neighborhoods, the research behind his brain science and the importance of early childhood development. So his work is fundamental for anyone who enters early childhood education and care, who starts to work in early childhood education and care as an early childhood educator, future kindergarten teacher, room leader, or allied professional. Let's delve into it, and I will answer who is Jack Shonkoff, what is this book about, and why his work is so important. So how much do we really know about the importance of early childhood education and care, early years brain development? At this stage, 25 years after Jack Shonkoff started his research, we know much more. But anyone who is starting early childhood education and care career might hear some facts about brain or neuroscience here and there. They might hear that children are sponges, but scientifically, maybe not that much. So that's where Jack Shonkoff comes in. He gives us very hard evidence about the importance of early childhood education and care, early years, and also practical advice on how to be the best early childhood educator. Let's get started. So I've heard about this guy, Jack Shonkoff, at university back in 2010. In Monash University, we were studying child development, and I remember that this book, From Neurons to Neighborhoods, the science of early childhood development, was on the list of recommended books for us. And of course, it changed my attitude towards the importance of brain development and the importance of early years. I also started to read more about neuroscience, and I'm quite, I would say, frequent guest to the website Harvard Child Development. So Shonkoff was now he's a researcher, but he was a pediatrician, a doctor, and a leading researcher in early childhood education and development. His work explains why the first 5 years of life shape everything that follows. Basically, these first 5 years, according to Jack Shonkoff, influence everything: emotional well-being, long-term health, and of course, learning. It influences self-esteem, coping strategies, resilience, and a lot more. So Shonkoff been quite important in translating this research, which usually is piled in scientific papers, into the real policies that we are actually witnessing right now in Australia. For example, we have a rollout of universal kindergarten, and we do have pre-prep, so funding. So that's very important. Also, kindergarten year 3 and 4 are funded as much as possible, so heavily funded by government at the moment in Victoria, in Australia, where I am. So these are policies that directly impacted by Shonkoff, because he proved using neuroscience and multiple sources and research that followed as well, that babies benefit from early childhood programs that are quality early childhood programs that are based on neuroscience and based on key principles that he identified in his research, and you can read about them on his website or in his books. So here is why his work matters for us early childhood educators. It's actually quite important for parents as well, for any early childhood professionals. I cannot cover all the book in this video, but I'm going to focus on what's really important. Watch till the end, And I will recommend one really great documentary that you can watch on Netflix if you are a visual learner. So, number one point is early experiences shape the brain. So, early experiences that children have when they're born are very, very significant. That's what Jack Shonkoff said. In particular, he said that the interactions with significant adults that are warm, responsive, and caring, they show child that they can trust the adults, but they also build the architecture of the brain. So it builds the foundation for any future learning. And modern neuroscience suggests the same. I'm going to show you a book in a second that I recommend as well. Stay tuned. So here is the book that I recommend. It is Early Childhood and Neuroscience. Yes, so you can see it's theory, research, and implications for practice. Mina Konkbair. Mina Konkbair. So this is a really great book. I've learned about this book during one of my professional development sessions on big days when you go through, and I actually listened to the researcher herself. So she's a neuroscientist, and she published this book recently. So it all supports research of Shonkoff, and she covers also the neuroscience as a young science and the history of it, structure of neurons, synapses. Yes, so what are synapses? That are connecting neurons, what is white and gray matter, etc. So if you want to go in more depth about neuroscience, read not just Shonkoff book, but this one as well. I have it on my list of Amazon books that I pick, and if you want to check, you can have a look at description. I have Amazon storefront, and you will find this book there. All right, so this is his book, From Neurons to Neighborhoods. It's 25 years old, and it was published by National Research Council Institute of Medicine. All the information in this book has been updated, and it's all available on the website that you will see at the end of this video as well, and on the slides that I will put on my PayHip if you want to download them for personal use or share it with your team to talk about the importance of neuroscience in early childhood education and care. So the key concept here when we talk about early experiences that shape child's brain is serve and return. Serve and return interactions, so you can think of like swings, yeah, is the idea that when child looks at you, you return their look and you interact with them. When they babble, when they point at something, when express emotions like fear or happiness, you respond as an adult. So the neural connections in the brain form and they strengthen. So that's an important part of growing up, and the more interactions like this where a child had successful serve and return, the better this foundation of the brain is. So back and forth exchange is very important, to the point that they started to train parents 25 years ago, and it still continues, to interact with babies properly. Language development depends on that. You can talk to a baby while you just have free time. You can talk to a baby while they're in a pram. You can listen to a baby when they try to answer you with their face or with words or babbling and sounds. It helps to build a strong neural pathways or roads, and the more of these interactions you will build, the better language will be as well. The better thinking routes will be. And the next segment that is developing is emotional security. You remember Erik Erikson theory? So it was all about trust during this first year of life. And emotional security is something that also happens and forms during the serve and return interactions. Consistent, responsive interactions build trust. Erik Erikson, who didn't know about neuroscience, he was a psychologist, talked about. And finally, cognitive skills. Yes, thinking, memory, problem solving, critical thinking. It all develops through this engaged and engaging conversation, through the serve and return. You probably know what these conversations look like. So, for example, if you want to wash baby's hands, you can say, "Oh, we're gonna wash these dirty hands," and baby might look at you, "Look, they're so dirty," and then wash, 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 and then yeah. So this is serve and return. Or if they're sitting there and whinging a little bit, show you that they want you to pick them up, you will respond to it, whether you pick them up straight away or you respond with a smile, or even you say that I'll pick you up in a second. So this is a returned interaction. So that's the key concept. Remember that? And if you are not responding to babies because you are busy, of course it's understandable because you're looking after more than one baby. But it is still significant to pay attention to the importance of responsive and warm interactions. So what that means for us as educators, we need to talk with children, even if they are non-verbal. This is probably the most difficult part of infant placements, babies, toddlers placement, when student doesn't know how to start interactions with babies. That's why on my channel I teach how to talk to babies as well, and how to sing songs. So that's why I have all these finger plays, and I know a lot of them because they are the best conversation starters. You can always point at body parts and talk about anything around the baby and talk about baby herself. So we need to acknowledge and respond to child cues. So of course, Certificate 3 and Diploma cover it extensively. We need to understand child communication and attempt to communicate through the eye contact, through gestures, through babbling, words, everything, or even attempts to do so. We create environments to encourage interactions. For example, a soft chair where you can sit with the baby comfortably and interact, holding them like this. Special support for back for educators when they try to put toddlers to sleep and they still can interact with children. Of course, you can have mini group discussions where you will interact with more than one baby. And these environments are very, very important. So number one, just to review, is early experiences shape the brain. Serve and return is an important concept. Now, second one he talked about, and we are talking about Jack Shonkoff, is toxic stress. Toxic stress can disrupt learning, and modern neuroscience that I mentioned, yeah, so this in this book, they also suggest the same toxic stress. So it could be anything from smoking, yeah, unstable environments, neglect, severe neglect, abuse, of course, violence, even witnessing family violence. It's all important for the brain, and you can see what happens to extremely neglected child's brain. So this one is on the right and this one is on the left. So this is a child who received warm and responsive, secure, stable environment, and this is the child from family that is disadvantaged, and of course there is maybe depression of the parent or abuse of drugs, etc. So Shonkoff's research shows that high stress level in early childhood can make it harder for children to progress through stages of emotional development. In particular, it might be difficult to regulate emotions. So as kindergarten teachers or preschool teachers, when we get children who are, let's say, 3 to 5 and they're unregulated, this happened before, not just now. It's not because their parents let them get away with anything. It's not because they are not educated. It's because they come from neglected or difficult environment that is challenging and might present toxic stress for these children. Maybe they're not eating well. Maybe they're malnourished. So stress hormones flood this brain that looks normal on this picture, and they weaken the connections, those roads that I was talking about, that are required for higher order thinking. Remember Vygotsky and his idea of cognitive development and lower functions and higher order functions. Yeah. So for creativity, for problem solving, we need higher order functions. And for language as well, for thinking and speaking in sentences, we need this development of basic architecture of the brain. So that was the discovery of the team of Jack Shonkoff. Now, what this means for us, let's be practical. We need to recognize the signs of stress in young children. For example, baby is withdrawn, not focusing. There are some heightened emotions that you notice. You may see signs of malnourishment, and you can obviously address it through referrals or even through care. We build calm, predictable environments in the rooms to support these children who are at disadvantage, right? Consistency helps all infants and all babies and all toddlers and preschoolers and school-age children. But it also helps children to feel safe at this age, particularly important, right? So why? Because the architecture of the brain. So we also support self-regulation through co-regulating babies. We pick them up, we look after them, we change nappies, we tell them that like what they experience is stress, and we pretty much support their emotional regulations through hugs, through caring them, through being present, and be consistent. We also model emotional responses. So, for example, a child fell or hurt themselves. We do not dismiss it, but we also don't blame furniture or other children. We do explain it all through modeled language and action. So, for example, we might give them a hug. We might show them what nice touch look like. We might introduce stability. Yeah. And the most important thing that he talks about in his book is that educators and parents, of course, need to be stable, positive presence. If one person is not available, then there should be someone else who should be present, and then the brain will survive and will build this architecture that is required. That's why they talk a lot about resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from negative impact that child experience in early childhood is. So yeah, that's very important. Number 3, science should shape early childhood policies. I think it's honestly one of the most important conclusions of the research of Jack Shonkoff and his team, and neuroscience in general. It does inform our frameworks now. So I'm looking at Victorian Early Years Learning and Development Framework, and you see that they embed ecological model by Bronfenbrenner, and it talks about pretty much the same concepts, that child's brain is impacted not just by directly through eating patterns, through pregnancy, but also through the context, so through neighborhoods, as he calls it, social context. So all this is important for child and development. EYLF also is informed heavily by neuroscience and modern science, and of course we have a lot of other documents that you can refer to. For example, Starting Strong research, OECD. We in Australia have ASICWA resources that support a lot of these ideas and delve into it in more depth. So if you want to research, you can find it there. Shonkoff influenced early childhood policies and funding a lot. So you can find his TED Talk where he talks about the importance of early years, and this TED Talk impacted early childhood funding a lot. So it's always now a debate about how much money we should invest in early childhood. So now we talk about investment in early childhood, even in education of young children. Before we would talk about care, nursing, so it would be quite a different narrative. Now governments increased investment in high quality early learning programs. We have in Australia definitely focus on that now in the debates before election, and we have a lot of interventions, yes, so such as inclusion support, and around the world you can see the same thing. Also, educators like you and I, we are trained on trauma, so we do have this unit that is now called 025, so identifying and responding to young children and people at risk. And we also have child protection training, we have child safe standards, and we do know about trauma informed care. That's part of this unit 025. And for early childhood educators, it's a reminder to always consider science as important. So before you jump to conclusions, why you have to do that? Do I have to do big group times? Why do I have to pick up babies? Or maybe it's spoiling them. When you are in doubt, always look at evidence and always look at the key sources that we consider reputable or authoritative sources of information. So engaging with children is important, and even if they are dysregulated, we need to provide stability and we need to support them, because behavior is learning and they learn to get along with others. It's a lifelong impact on child's brain. So now, why do I like Jack Shonkoff research and why do I think it is important? Why did I make this video? I think it's very important research. The first 5 years do matter. So his work really is I'd say affordable, easy to read. So, and you can find the key outcomes as well that are more detailed than my video on the website on child development from Harvard and his own website, Shonkoff's website. But the most important takeaway is serve and return, and responsiveness to children, which we have in the EYLF, reducing stress, very critical. If you can do it, please do it. And of course, being advocates for policies. Yes, so being advocates for early childhood funding of strong quality programs, including free kindergarten. All right, so it's important to understand the research behind anything we do, and of course it's been updated all the time, but this is a foundational research you need to know about, and it truly makes a difference. To summarize, in my next video, I will share some practical strategies. I didn't talk about practical strategies. I'm going to talk about early childhood education strategies in general, but also how it is backed up by neuroscience. We'll talk a little bit more about how you can use these strategies. And also, I promise to recommend one documentary that you can watch, and it's fun and it's beautiful documentary, especially if you have not watched anything about Reggio Emilia and similar approaches. It will show you really high quality environments, and then it will explain all these concepts that we covered today in more depth. So hang on, I'm gonna share this documentary with you. So, the documentary that I promised, thanks for watching till the end, is The Beginning of Life. So I watched it on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's still available on Netflix. From what I see, it's available on Apple TV. But it is really amazing documentary. So you can click here. It's called The Beginning of Life. It's 2 hours, and it's all about scientists, advocates for early childhood education and care, parents around the world explain why we have to tend to kids' earliest needs and how it shapes their life. So I highly recommend you to watch this documentary, and that's where you will see Shonkoff here, see it talking about it. So I definitely recommend you to watch this documentary. Maybe you will find it online. For example, here, because it's Maria Farina films, and I watched it few times, and I definitely learned something new every time. Excellent documentary to watch in line with what we covered. So it's called The Beginning of Life. All right, so that's the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. For more videos on child development, um, subscribe and share this video if you know anyone who starts their career in early childhood education and care, or at least recommend them to watch this documentary.